Hey friends, welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name is Ebony and I'm so stoked you could hang out with me today. Today I am going to be talking a little bit about the origin of black-eyed children, and then I just wanted to throw a little bit of my story in on it. Now, you know when something happens in your life and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, like that totally could have been what happened to me. So upon researching the black-eyed children, I have come to this thought that I may have encountered black-eyed children in my day. So first I'm going to tell you kind of where the black-eyed children originated. So they originated or started being seen, the first sighting of a black-eyed child was in 1996. That would have made me about 8. And come to think of when this happened to me, I probably was about 8 or 9. Basically, nobody knows what a black-eyed child is, but we've gathered some characteristics of a black-eyed child. So the first thing about black-eyed children is, of course, their eyes are blacked out. Very dark, look kind of like this. Characteristics of them are high-pitched giggles, which is like the creepiest thing ever. So the first sighting was in 1996. Some of their characteristics, like I said, definitely the blacked out eyes, that's a big one, but also old-fashioned and super tattered clothing, and outdated haircuts as well. Now, even though they were sighted first in 1996 or reported first in 1996, I would say that their haircuts and their clothing style look more like a 30s, 40s type getup. So very crisp and clean hair for the girls, very tailored hair for the boys, perhaps a pompadour for the boys, lots of muted tone clothing, lots of browns, tans, things like that. And then they are all usually very, very fair in skin tone. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that they are white per se, but it could be, you know, they could look of African American descent but be very fair. They could look, you know, Hispanic but be very fair, so on and so forth. So it's not like all black-eyed children are Caucasian, just that they are all very pale. These children, they also look like they are from the ages 6 to 16. Again, nobody knows if they're actually children. Some people say they may be otherworldly. Some people say that they may be demon-possessed children, because if you think about who you would want to let into your home, or who you would want to let, you know, who you would want to protect, you're not going to protect a grown man or a grown woman. You're going to be more inclined to save a child. So sightings of these children usually occur in rural areas, out in the mountains, in the desert, but they also have been sighted at people's homes, residences, late at night when nobody is around. What they will do is they will knock on, say, your door, or the side of your house or your window. What makes people think that maybe they are demonic is that they will ask you to come in. They'll say, I need help, I have nowhere to go, I'm hungry, I'm cold, things like that. And you are supposed to shut the door, tell them they're not welcome, tell them to go away, tell them not to come back, and that you're not letting them in, because the second you tell them that they can come in, things have happened to people that have been very, very terrifying. They will also tap on your car, find you in a parking lot. When it's cold outside, ask you for a ride. Do not let them in your car. If you see them, roll up the window, call the police if you want to, if that makes you comfortable, but do not let them in your home. So I'm going to tell you kind of my 2 little experiences thinking about the black-eyed children that I think may have happened to me. Now, I currently live in a townhome. I love it so much. But the one thing I cannot stand is there's like a row of townhomes this way, and then there's a little one adjacent here. There's a big, huge grass area, and then right here, there is a preschool. Now, I have to hear children screaming all hours of the day, especially in the morning, but the daycare closes around 5 o'clock. One night, I was letting my dogs out, and I saw out of the corner of my eye a couple kids. Now, it was dark. It must have been, it was in the winter time. It was when we first moved in, and we so it must have been December. So it was about 8 o'clock. So it was pretty dark. It gets pretty dark here. We live in a bowl of mountains. So once the sun sets behind the mountains, it's dark. So I see a couple kids just walking, and I think, okay, nothing of it, whatever. Kind of over by the fence by the preschool. And so I look back and I don't see them anymore. I assume they went home. You know, kids in packs are normal because we do live, you know, in a condo, and there's lots of condos around us. So then I hear like, so they were outside of the preschool because it's a very fenced, like it's a private property. So there are trikes at the preschool, and I hear a trike like pedaling, because it's like a big square of concrete where the kids ride the trikes, and then a playground in the middle. And I hear a trike just like riding, and when I look over, I can see a trike moving, but I don't see a kid on it. But again, it's like probably 20 yards away from me, so it's not like I was right up close to see. I just saw the trike moving a little bit, and I went inside. So I was already freaked out enough. Like, that's scary. I was home. Michael hadn't gotten home from work yet. So I go inside. Everything's chill. I'm probably on Facebook. I don't remember exactly what I was doing. And the doorbell rings. And I'm like, okay, I was already freaked out. Like, but we hadn't lived here that long. So I always assume that it's, you know, a friend who maybe doesn't know that they moved. That's happened before. I'm on either the phone or FaceTime with Star, who's one of our best friends. And I was like, oh my gosh, the doorbell just rang. And she's like, don't answer it. Don't go answer it. Like, just ignore it. And I'm like, no, well, I'm going to answer it. Like, you know, it must be someone for me. Maybe it's my mom, even though she had like never come. She doesn't knock on the front door, and she would tell me she was coming. I opened the door and there was nobody there. And I was like, okay, that is terrifying. So I shut the door. Nothing else happened that night. The next night I get home, because I get home about an hour and a half before Michael. I'm cooking dinner, just hanging out. My dogs are there. And this is what's really strange, is when someone even walks past our house, my dogs go crazy. Somebody could like tiptoe past our house and the dogs go nuts. But when if the doorbell rings, they also go crazy. But when the doorbell rang this time, they didn't go crazy at all. So the next night, the doorbell rings, and I've got my front window cracked a little bit, and I don't hear any talking, because the way it is like my kitchen is like right here, and then like my kitchen window, and then the front door is like right here next to it. And the doorbell rings again, and again I'm on FaceTime with Star, and she's like, do not answer that. So I answer the door. I hear giggling. Like, I crack the door, I hear giggling. I open the door, like thinking like maybe someone was ding dong ditching us or something like that. But my window was open. I would have seen if someone ran. I opened it, I looked, nobody ran the other way. And that was the end of that story. Had the doorbell ring again, my husband told me just like not to answer it, not to worry about it. It didn't happen again. Now, there are a lot of kids around here, so I can write that one off as a ding dong ditch. That's fine. But it happened 2 nights in a row, and like the trike was like freaking me out, and the children, and kids are just like demons. I can't do children. And then the other one, so that happened this year. The other one that I was thinking of happened when I was younger. I must have been about 8 or 9. It was about 1998, 1997, somewhere right around there. Babe? We lived a pretty quiet life. My parents would go out, they would hang out, but like we never really went out. We never really went places. Usually my parents slept, you know, went to bed pretty early, or they stayed up late till I was like, you know, asleep, and then they would do whatever. So, and I lived with my Nana. Now, my Nana was the sweetest woman ever. She took in so many of my dad's friends. She took in kids. She took in people she barely even knew. She took in me. She took in my brother. She took in some step siblings. Like, her doors were never locked at her house ever. Her doors were never, they were never locked. Like, you could come home from school and open the front door and it would be open. Even years later, when I had like moved out or like gone to high school, I could still go to her house and the front door would be open and the sliding glass door would be open. They were just always unlocked because she's trusting. It was an okay neighborhood, you know, but she just always thought like, you know, if somebody needs to come in, if someone needs to be here, they can be here. This is a safe place. So one night we hear this banging on the door, and it there are these two people outside, two kids, and they're screaming, please let us in, like let us in, we need to come in, please. And so there were two windows and the front door, so I could see them just fine. There was a sliding glass door. It was like a very open living room. So she comes down the stairs, she looks out the peephole, and she turns white as a ghost. Now, nothing scared this woman ever. Nothing scared her. Like, honestly, she would tell me, because I used to be so scared. This is so strange. So she, like, honestly, she would tell me, like, oh, if somebody breaks in, like, oh, if, you know, if somebody comes in, just like tell them where my room is, tell them I'm waiting for them, like, because she was hilarious and a boss ass bitch, and she wasn't scared of anything. So she, like, looks a little freaked out, locks the door, which she never does, goes to the sliding glass door, locks the sliding glass door, and tells them to go away, that they are not welcome. Now, it could have been like a friend of my parents, it could have been an old somebody she knew, but it was two kids that were maybe like 8 and like 13 or 14 is what they looked like. And she told me, do not look at them, go to your room, we are not letting them in. And I was like alarmed, because at that time I didn't know about the black-eyed kids, and who knows even if it was the black-eyed kids. But that woman was not scared of anything. She told me she danced with Charles Manson at a bar before. She told me all these stories and all these things that happened to her, and she just wasn't scared of anything. And she was scared. She was startled, and she didn't let them in. Her friend lived down the street, and I was like, call your friend and make sure she doesn't let him in either. But like, those two things, like with what I've researched, kind of hit home for me. It could just be like a creepy thing that happened for sure, but it startled me to my core. I think about it all the time, and like, I can't imagine what would have happened if she would have let them in, because normally she would have. I mean, we had people in and out all hours of the night, all day, all night, all day long, because it was a safe place for everyone. So the fact that she didn't let them in, and they were so young, and they were begging her to let them in. They were like beating on the door. And I know that from my research, I've heard that if you don't let the black-eyed kids in, or let the black-eyed children in, that they will scratch at your door and cry and scream. And if I had to picture one time in my life where like this makes sense, it was definitely that day. Like, my other story I can write off as like ding dong ditching, but this one like made no sense to me. So with it being kind of a creepy time, I love telling creepy stories, and I've got so many of them. I think I've thought I was a witch since I was like 7. So my Nana always told me she was a witch, and so I knew that because she was my Nana, obviously I was a witch too. So spooky things really are my forte. I have stayed in a very, very haunted condo with my 2 best friends. So I've got a lot of stories. So if you like stories like this, please, please, please give this video a thumbs up. I would love it so much. I would know that you like these type of videos. I am going to go. I would love it so much if you would subscribe, hang out with me on social media, and remember that you're loved, and more important than you know. Be kind to each other. Bye guys.